Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifene. Great Malabite, good morning.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Victoria, Tundu, MKO Abiola.
Good morning, Mr. Ifene.
Yes, we start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of records. The lead story, states unveil plans to implement financial autonomy for legislature, judiciary. Yes, judicial workers will resume work tomorrow after almost 2 months of strike to press home their demand for governors to obey the Constitution. And it's been a long drawn battle, but the governors have promised to comply, and they have 45 days to implement the strategies to ensure full financial autonomy for the other 2 arms of government. Now, the various states, a number of states, are at various levels of implementation, either setting up the State Assembly Commission, setting up the State Accounts and Allocation Committee. We hope they will go full throttle and do this accordingly. Yes, Oyo, Ebonyi, Taraba, Nasarawa, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, and Ekiti, according to this day report, are at various stages of implementation. But yes, Tundu, you chronicled earlier, since 2018, when that amendment was signed. And by the time perhaps these governors complete the implementation, I will not be surprised to see an editorial with the title, Long Road to Financial Autonomy for Legislature and Judiciary at the state level. Now, we look at other stories quickly. The Punch newspaper, Buhari Cow Roots Gazette doesn't exist. Grazing ban stays, says states. Show us grazing route in Ondo if it exists. Akeredolu's aides tells federal government. No part of Benue designated as grazing route, says Governor Otom. Law, not a federal law. Buhari lacks powers to implement it. Senator. Yes, still on grazing route, the leadership newspaper, grazing route, southern governors to meet over PMB's stand, insist on open grazing ban. Northern states begin construction of grazing reserves as Niger, Plateau, Jigawa intensify work on projects. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper also reporting this story. Uproar over plan to reopen grazing route. It will set Nigeria on fire. Northern Elders Forum, Afenifere, Igbo groups warn federal government. Insist open grazing not permissible now. Anonymous letter threatening mayhem over ban in Delta. Well, a faceless group wrote that, which has been circulating, that there will be jihad against Deltans. But the Commissioner of Police in Delta State has given assurance, and I want to take that assurance very seriously, not just words, that indeed we don't see any attack on Deltans by this faceless group. Now, other stories, the Daily Times of Nigeria, weekend of bloodbath as lawlessness spreads. Of course, giving highlights of that. 4 policemen killed in Akwa Ibom, Imo. 14 abducted. Kidnappers demand 30 million naira for farmer. Police recover 138 rounds of AK-47 ammunition. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, lead story, regional groups raise dust over Buhari's June 12th speech. Pandef, Ohaneze, Afenifere, Middle Belt Forum can fault Buhari's Democracy Day speech. Speeches not in Nigeria's best interest, Afenifere. President didn't speak his mind, or Hanese, is hollow, lacks substance. Pandef apologized for plunging Nigeria into hardship. Middle Belt Forum tells Buhari, we are concerned with realities on ground, not rhetorics. Christian Association of Nigeria. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper, June 12th, we need to disrupt Nigeria's political system. Kola Abiola, first son of MK Abiola, the elder brother of Tundu. Yes, says current structure, not what Yaradua, MKO, others died for. Insists he has no political ambition. Now, the Nation newspaper, still on the MKO family. Government considers pension for MKO's next of kin, King Gibe. This democracy not what Abiola died for, says son Kola. There has been no concomitant benefit to them since that recognition because the law did not foresee this kind of situation. Now, the Guardian newspaper, Nigeria's The Guardian newspaper, Twitter, Facebook undecided on federal government licensing order as losses rise. Nigerians ignore India's coup for Twitter. Trend June 12 protest. Social media influencers, others count losses. If we just look at Abuja Inquirer, yes, the city of Abuja, land racketeering, allegation rock development control. We are investigating director, Community Fingers, FCTA in kidnapping. Yes, a resident of Peggy community in Kuje Council area, pointing accusing fingers at some officers of FCT Development Control Department for allegedly engaging in land racketeering and intentionally altering the master plan of the area. Now, foreign newspapers quickly, the Times of UK, easing of lockdown delayed by 4 weeks. Yes, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, will unveil that today at number 10 Downing Street press conference, that indeed they need another 4 weeks to ensure that as many people as possible are protected before lifting the lockdown totally. And of course, the target is to get every adult in the UK to get vaccination by the end of the month. Now, the Jerusalem Post and also the Washington Post, Bennett sworn in as Prime Minister. It's time to heal nation. Lawmakers protest, new Prime Minister's speech with constant heckling. We know how to save the nation. The new Prime Minister is saying, and Washington Post, Netanyahu's 12-year tenure comes to an end at last, which, of course, with the narrowest of margins, the conservative lawmakers voted 60 to 59 to give power to an unlikely coalition of the right, center, and left of Israel political spectrum. Ruben Rufai and Tundu, over to you.
Okay, since we seem to have a little more time with you, just to take up a number of issues. The first is the controversial statement made by the president with regard to grazing routes and the Gazette that you referred to. I've had all kinds of commentaries about it, principally people blaming the Attorney General of the Federation, that the Attorney General of the Federation should have advised the president to the effect that, one, there are no grazing routes anymore in Nigeria. In 1969, in the Abeokuta division of the High Court, Justice Adewale Thompson, in a suit titled AB/26/66, had ruled that it is repugnant to natural law, justice, and fairness, for anybody to talk about open grazing. Because if you must tell the farmer to fence his farm, then you must also be able to tell the cattle rearer to also fence in his cattle so that it does not cause damage to other citizens. That's one. The second argument that has been put up has to do with Section 1 and 2 of the Land Use Act 1979. That Land Use Act vests ownership of land in the state governments, who hold that land in their territory as trustees. And so to that effect, there is no way the federal government can say it will reinvent a certain gazette and therefore claim that it will, reinvent the grazing routes of old if they existed. And the third point, of course, is that many of these states have already said they've banned open grazing in their states. So would the federal government now upturn, the existing legal dispensation with regard to ownership of land and grazing and cattle rearing in their respective states? I guess, these are the reasons why there is this controversy. But again, it's all part of the fact that here in Nigeria, there are so many issues at the heart of the national question. And that's why some people are saying, let us sit down, let us have a dialogue, or we may call it a conference, and try to resolve many of these issues. The second issue that I would like to draw your attention to is a report in This Day this morning titled Echoes of June 12 Democracy Day, pages 22 to 23. And what the This Day newspaper does is to give an overview of what happened on June 12. I mean, June 12 was a national movement. June 12 was a struggle for democracy, which encompassed players from various parts of Nigeria. And people from different parts of Nigeria made sacrifice to bring us to that moment in 1999 when Nigerians said, enough is enough to military rule. We want democracy, and we want the military to exit the state. But if you look at the This Day report, you see that the protests were concentrated more in the southwestern part of the country. In almost all the 19 states of the north, nobody protested. In the east, in Ebonyi, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Enugu, and even in Imo, people did not join any protests at all. What does this say to us about Nigeria, about the state of our democracy, about people's response to the dispensation? So clearly, we are more...
Southeast, we may understand that that place is highly militarized right now. So it would have been suicidal for any youth to come out in the southeast to say they want to protest against June 12, in support of June 12 or the situation in the country. So I think you can excuse the southeast for this reason, because the place is highly militarized now. Right? Yes.
Well, no, I was just going to make the point that if we subject that report to an analysis, we need to all remind ourselves that June 12 is not about one particular part of the country. June 12 is about Nigeria itself. It's about the survival of democracy. But of course, in terms of responses, there is greater division in the country on all issues, rather than the kind of unity, the symbolism of unity that June 12 represented. That's the original point I wanted to make. Okay.
Very, very well said, Dr. Abati and Mr. Efeni, about the protest that happened in on the 12th of June. But Dr. Abati, you're correct. Even when you look at the antecedents of June 12, largely the protests have always been in the southern part of the country. If you check all the years. In fact, the first time that June 12 was even recognized, I think it was governors in the southwest that were declaring it a public holiday. They'll declare June 12th, and they'll also declare 7th of July, the day Bashir M.K. Abiola did die, as a public holiday, to the chagrin of a lot of people in other parts of the country. So it's been predominantly around here. But that shouldn't take away the essence and the symbolism of that day. And what's the symbolism of that day? The symbolism of that day is that Nigerians voted for a man that went beyond race, went beyond tribe, went beyond religion, and united the country. We forget. We talk about unity now like it's a hard thing. MK Abiola actually did unite the country. Okay, we'll take a break. I'll come back and land on my points. Thank you. All right, welcome back. Still the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. So I was making a point, Mr. Efeni, before we went at that break. I said, the symbolism of that day, June 12, MK Abiola actually did unite this country. I'm not sure there's any political candidate since the time of MK Abiola that won convincingly in most parts and regions of the country. What we have today is block votes. If a northerner is vying for a political office as president, you'll see more northerners will vote for him, the south will not vote for him. But across board and across every region in this country, MK Abiola got, big votes. And people came out to vote for him. Even he beat his opponent in Kano, the state of his opponent. Secondly, a lot of people could accept a Muslim ticket.
Before you continue.
What?
Let me just chip in this. From the Vanguard newspaper, just to buttress your point, and you continue. MK Abiola, most acceptable Nigerian Democrat.
And that's true.
The Bauchi governor.
That's true.
Mohammed speaking.
And that's to show you the kind of person. You know, a lot of people talk about Muslim ticket. Muslim ticket. The reason why we could accept a Muslim ticket then was because of the magnanimity and the might and the heart of the man called MK Abiola. He was the only one that could pull it through because a lot of people could see through him, the genuineness of heart, the fact that he truly wanted to do something. He understands the plight of people that are poor. And he had a brilliant manifesto, you know, that can be seen in the best libraries in the world today, Library of Congress, called Farewell to Poverty. He wanted to bring people out of poverty. These days where some people tell you that they bring 10.5 million people out of poverty, and you go to check worldpovertyclock.io and you don't see the knock-on effect, and you are seeing minus 4.2% return rates to poverty in Nigeria. MK Abiola had a blueprint, you know, a 71-page document to bring people out of poverty, his manifesto. I mean, you can't say the same of most political parties today. He was way ahead of his time. And he was a man that understood the plights of Nigerians and really wanted to end the suffering. He knew the issues. It's not today that we talk to politicians and they don't even know the issues. He knew economy. You know, he was the president of Nigeria's stock exchange. He had understanding of economy, technology, science. You know, every field of national endeavor, he understood it. And he was a businessman. He created jobs. He created viable economy for other people. I'm not sure there are many Nigerian politicians that are in politics today that have created more jobs like MK Abiola did do. I mean, we're talking in-house today that most of the crop of journalists you see today were ex-Concord journalists. And those are the ones still leading the trail. So in every sector of the economy, from oil and gas to everywhere, he created jobs. And that's a lot to be learned from the man. So that's the symbolism, you know, of June 12th. But most importantly, I ask, is it really farewell to poverty in Nigeria?
Like MKO today?
Sir?
Are we short of men of vision in Nigeria? No. How come we don't get the best to the podium and to the seat of power?
And that's why a lot of people are saying, is this the politics? Is this the democracy MK Abiola died for?
Well,
is this the democracy he died for?
A footnote that also June 12 provides us an opportunity to remember others who were also heroes of that process. Chief MK Abiola was the symbol. It was a rallying point. It was a catalyst for that turning point in Nigerian history. But there were others too. Chief Gani Faweime, Wole Soyinka, Ndubisi Kanu. There was also Suleiman. There is Colonel Abubakar Umar. There were also those journalists that went to jail at one point or the other.
And who died?
Bagauda Kauto
James Bagauda
was killed.
Kauto, yes.
Chima Ubane, you know,
Ulisa
Agbakoba, who led a 5 million man march and was attacked by state agents around the Butemeta and was jailed. Frank Kokori, who called out Nupeng, you know, petroleum workers,
General.
yes, who shut down Nigeria
Chief
to
Segun
prove a
Oshaba,
point.
Bashorun Dele Momodu. I'm going through my video. Remember that video? I have this video, Heroes of June 12th. I'm actually going through it in my mind to name everybody. But yeah, thank you, Rufai. That was glowing. Thank you so much. Bless you. But for me, June 12th, about democracy, what are the hallmarks of democracy really? Equity, accountability, inclusiveness, transparency, many of which are sorely lacking now. And we do need to do a lot of introspection as to where we are now. Personally, my loss, it's a personal one, obviously, but I always have to stress that it didn't need to be. I think it was a completely unnecessary escalation. It's nice for me to comfort myself that my father died a hero, but he did not need to die. He should still be here. He never met my children. That for me is a disaster. So there's no amount of platitudes. It's really nice that everybody has to sit at home one day a year, like today, because he won this election, Nigerians went out and voted for him. That's sort of a comfort, but it should never have happened in the first case. There are many people who turned that crisis into opportunities for themselves and kept him in detention. The United Nations has now defined solitary confinement as torture. So he was tortured for 4 years and eventually killed. He should never have been left there to die because it was in some people's interest. Some people have used our family tragedy to make a whole empire for themselves. It has enriched them in many ways, including financially, politically. There are all kinds of selfish people who continue to make an industry off of this man's blood that never even cared about June 12th or his legacy. And shamefully, even some members of his own family will happily throw him under the bus for cheap applause.
I feel you.
It hurts me. It hurts me. He did not need to die. He did not need to die.
The man died.
He shouldn't have.
He died.
He should not
and we still we remember him today as a hero.
I come from
Yes,
myself,
it's no
but
more.
yes, he's a hero, but please, I need a dad more than a hero. You can have the hero. I want my dad.
Yeah, I can feel you.
You know, you are spot on. And yesterday, parts of what you said, were also echoed by Femi Falana, SAN, and also Shupo Shunebare on Saturday. Both of them on Saturday on the morning show, when they made a point that many of the people who have profited from June 12 made no contribution towards the advancement of democracy. But I wanted to talk quickly, as we wrap up, on Jerusalem, on Israel.
Yes.
You referred to Jerusalem Post. Yesterday they had that, electoral process in the Knesset, that's the Israeli parliament, which threw up Naftali Bennett as the next prime minister. You left out, when you were defining the coalition of leftist centrists, you left out the Arab party, with 21% minority. And, this is not the first time that the Arab minority will form a coalition. But it's a very fragile coalition. If anything has been achieved, is that Israel will not have to conduct another election the fifth time in 2 years. And so, as Benjamin Netanyahu of the Likud party leaves, he's still leading the party. He was on record as saying that this party will be back. And what he's referring to is the fragility of this coalition that Naftali Bennett of the Yamani minority party will be leading. Of course, he and Lapid are supposed to share power. He as prime minister, Lapid as a foreign minister. And after 3 years, or in 2023, the agreement is that there will be a reversal of roles. Lapid will take over as prime minister, and Bennett would maybe become foreign minister. But what effect would this have in a real sense? Will it have any effect on Israel's relations with other countries? I don't think that much is likely to change in terms of, the foreign policy process of the Israeli government. Already, the United States has signaled that, it's prepared to work with the new government, and it's one of the first countries to congratulate the new leader that has emerged in Israel. But the Israel model is quite interesting because of the composition of its parliament with such a large collection of parties.
Well, on fragility of coalitions, I always think of Nick Clegg and David Cameron's little misadventure, where the Lib Dems just were completely overwhelmed. They were steamrolled. They could not get any of the constitutional reforms they had been promised that they would get during that coalition. They were dominated by the Conservatives, and I'm not sure if this will not be history repeating that pattern.
I mean, great point. And what I suggest is they are going to fight a lot. So this is all good now because they want to get rid. They have a common enemy, that's Benjamin Netanyahu. They finally kicked him out. But two things will show you that this is not going to work long term. The fact that Benjamin Netanyahu could still rally a lot of people in the Knesset to vote against this, and this deal narrowly went through on vote of confidence with just one vote, is to show you that Benjamin Netanyahu still has a stronghold on Israel politics. And no matter how much they try to kick him out and use all the cases against him, corruption and the like, he's not going anywhere. What will happen is...
I just played his last card.
No, what will
rallying point.
What will happen is this. Both of them, in the next 1 year, will start a fight. When they start a fight, they'll push themselves to another snap elections. When they put themselves to another snap election, Benjamin Netanyahu will get his own part. He will do a deal, he'll come back, and he'll tell you that I'm good for Israel. That's what Netanyahu has always done. And and that's why you look at the likes of Ehud Olmert and some other people that have been leaders in Israel, it always falls back to Netanyahu. I think Netanyahu has been able to position himself effectively as the beautiful bride of Israeli politics. And it's only time that will tell. Right. And you will see the crack in the next 1 year.
Except that Netanyahu has many cases in court. And when he's no longer prime minister, he may not be as strong as he is. But as for the fragility of the coalition, for you to push anything through the Knesset, you need a majority of 6-1. And with the division 60-59, we'll see how it plays out, whether Naftali Bennett will survive for long or not. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Efene.